guys, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough. Now in this video I'd like to explain to you how you can actually be free of anxiety once and for all. It's probably one of the most common questions I have, and I've got this process for you which will allow the anxiety to completely drop very quickly. Sometimes it can be in a few weeks, sometimes it can even be in a few days, and be free of it once and for all. Now, before I get into the process of how you can be free of anxiety, it's very, very key to realize why we get anxious. You see, a lot of the time, if you have anxiety, you're going to be thinking and feeling that you hate the anxiety because the behavior in itself doesn't make us feel good. We know that I've had extreme anxiety in the past when I was very younger, and I absolutely hated it. But you see, what if we begin to hate the behavior, or we hate the anxiety in itself, we start to create a conflict, or the conflict actually increases. So I want you to change your relationship and your association to anxiety at first. Because although the behavior is rubbish, and it doesn't make you feel very good, your body runs anxiety for the best of intentions, and it is ultimately a protective mechanism. You see, way back in the generations when we first were around, we had to ultimately be a little bit anxious because we had to prepare to make sure we were safe. We had to prepare to make sure if we were attacked, we had a way of acting and reacting in that situation. Always looking out for possible scenarios of what might happen so we can remain safe. So you could say the intention behind anxiety is actually a protective mechanism. Now, the more you realize that, the more you can get in touch with your unconscious mind, which runs the anxiety, to resolve it. As I said, if you have hate towards your behavior of anxiety, or hate towards your body for producing the anxiety, that's only going to increase the conflict. So the key is to now turn that around and realize that your body is actually trying to protect you by being anxious. So knowing that in mind, we have to realize as well that in this day and age, we have less to be anxious about. Yes, we live in a fast-paced world, but we're not in situations which will harm us like they were many generations ago when we had to stay protected. So now it's time to change the relationship to anxiety and actually create a new response system. You see, when you consider anxiety, it's ultimately like you're putting your thoughts into everything that you don't want to happen. I don't want to be more in debt. I don't want to be trapped in this situation. I don't want another bad partner. I don't want to fill in the blank. Ultimately, you're thinking all the things that you don't want to try to unconsciously prepare for them. But that doesn't actually make us feel good, as you full well know. And on a side note to that, if you can imagine like a satellite navigation system, what's the very first thing that you do? You put in your destination, don't you? Where you're actually going to be heading. And then, once you put that into the satellite navigation, the sat-nav, the system itself will create the route all the way back to now to make sure you get there. Now let's put that in terms of the mind. Imagining that you have to focus on all the things that you don't want, or all the places you don't want to go to, it will take you forever to reach your destination because you've got to visit every place you don't want to first. Consider that as like anxiety. In your mind, you're considering all the things that you don't want to happen in your life, and that creates the body to become more anxious and worried and try to prepare for you to be safe. Now, we know that this process intentionally now is good, but the behavior in itself, the result, is actually not helping us be safe, and it's not allowing us to be free, and it's not allowing us to be happy. So with that in mind, I want you to have fun in this process. Now is the time to change the way and change the focus of your thoughts. Rather than putting our attention to all the things we don't want in our life, it's now time to put our attention to all the things that we do want. So you could say, let's reverse this anxiety. Every day, take time out to consider all the wonderful things which might happen today. As you begin to do this, as you begin to visualize it, as you continue to feel the feelings of achieving all these wonderful things, all the good things which will happen in your mind, your unconscious mind will begin to develop this new strategy. And as soon as you get the anxious thoughts, it's your job consciously to put a stop right there in your thoughts, because the anxiety is there because you're focusing on all the things that you don't want. So as soon as you get that thought, now it's time to change your attention and put your focus onto your desires, on how you'd like to act and react. In your mind, hallucinate and visualize yourself acting and reacting calmly. This in turn starts to retrain how your unconscious mind works. It begins to attach and associate this new strategy. So rather than thinking this, you're now thinking this new way of being. That will create this new habit over time. So you're ultimately doing the opposite of anxiety. Rather than considering all the things you don't want to happen, now you're considering all the things that you would like to happen. One way to add to this process as well is when you wake up in the morning, you begin to hallucinate and visualize your day in how you'd like to act and react. So if you've been anxious about work or a future event, in your mind, as you wake up, go ahead and hallucinate it and see yourself being and acting and reacting exactly how you would like to be. But see yourself dissociated, so you're seeing yourself in the movie. First of all, this cuts off the emotion of anxiety. That means the anxiety won't be there. And also, as you hallucinate seeing yourself in the movie, you're actually pre-teaching your unconscious mind this new strategy. It's like you're saying to your unconscious mind, this is how I'm going to act. So now we're changing the relationship to our body. First of all, we're at peace that our unconscious mind is trying to protect us. The behavior isn't good, so we're going to switch our attention to our desires. And also in the morning, we're going to hallucinate a new way, a new strategy, which is telling your unconscious mind how you'd like to act and react. This will really make powerful changes, and one of the reasons is that as you imagine these things in your mind, let's take the anxiety example, your brain does not really understand the difference between what is imagined and visualized compared to what is really real. That is why the body gets anxious. It hallucinates it so well that we start to feel the anxiety in our body. So with that in mind, if we switch it now to the reverse anxiety, you're getting your unconscious mind to begin to hallucinate and visualize how you would like to be, and then your brain begins to think this is true. So it begins to go by this new strategy. So that is a great way of letting go of anxiety. And another way for you, I've just thought of as well, consider where your anxiety is in your body. And as you notice where your anxiety is, maybe it's in the stomach, it's in the chest, maybe it's everywhere, but as you notice it, imagine and consider where that movement's coming from. I've got a bit of a cold today, so excuse my voice a little bit, but imagine where this anxiety is coming from and the movement it's making. Usually it will have a movement, so it may be going forward, or it might be going backwards, it might be going something like this. Now as you imagine that, put a colour to it. And as you imagine the anxiety in that direction, imagine it taking outside of your body for a moment. Now as you see that colour in your mind and that movement, whichever way it was going, start to change the colour into a colour that you think is pleasant, and then begin to reverse the direction. And as you begin to see the anxiety going backwards in reverse in this new colour, see it begin to slow down. And as it begins to slow down to a nice, gentle, comfortable level, take that feeling back on the inside of you. So now this feeling is going in the opposite direction, very slowly if you want to, in this new colour. And as you consider that, allow that feeling to just grow on the inside. That's going to really tell your unconscious mind to go in the new direction as well. So let's have a quick recap. Number one, realizing anxiety is trying to protect us. The behavior is bad, but the intention behind anxiety is actually trying to protect us. So let's take away that negative association, even hate toward what our body's doing. Now we realize our body's trying to protect us. And as we do that, that starts to get a rapport with your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. Number two, I'd like you to consider this. I want you to go ahead, as soon as you get anxiety, it's your signal consciously to focus your attention on what you want, knowing that wherever your attention goes, the energy begins to expand and flow. So you're telling your unconscious mind, this is the new way of being. You're doing reverse anxiety, considering all the wonderful things which might happen here. Number three, when you wake up in the morning, rehearse your day in your mind. Hallucinate it, visualize it, whether you see it, hear it, feel it, or just know it in your mind. Your unconscious mind begins to believe this is true and develops a new strategy. And the last one, taking the feeling out, reversing it, putting a new colour to it, and then bringing that back on the inside, that new wonderful feeling, and allow that to grow on the inside. So I hope that's been of value to you about being free of anxiety. As you continue to do this, it will be a habitual response. Your body will start to run for you. So therefore, you don't have to do it anymore. Your body naturally and effortlessly allows you to remain calm and peaceful because you can achieve this. So for more information about me, go ahead and visit my website, josephclough.com. Also on Facebook, which is facebook.com/josephsfanpage, and twitter.com/josephclough. I give lots of free audios, videos, well over 50 hours now, of brilliant, high-quality content of hypnosis, coaching, all your needs to be free of any issue you desire. Also, I have my free hypnosis apps and on the Android and on the iPhone and iPod. So until the next time, I'll speak to you soon, my friend. Many thanks and goodbye. The first part of our brain, which was formed of very I can't even say it. Got a bit of a cold today. Territorial. To the territorial. I might stop this. To territorial. Territorial. The territorial. The part of the brain. I got to start that again.